Good morning, comic book fans. Welcome back to Comics in 5 Minutes. I'm your ever Shorty, and I was at a gig last night and I'm in quite a lot of pain. But that's not going to stop me. No, I'm going to review the Unstoppable Doom Patrol, no less. And I have some thoughts on this, mostly positive, but I'm going to start with something which I'm not sure is a negative, but it's certainly one worth thinking about. And I'm kind of curious if anyone who's never read or really encountered Doom Patrol before could pick this up and get the same thing from it that I think the creators might have wanted. Because I'm not going to go out and say I'm like a huge Doom Patrol fan. I've not read all of it. I've read a lot of the Morrison and most of the Gerard Way stuff, and I like it. It's sometimes verges a bit too into the surreal for me. I'm more of an absurdist kind of guy, but I always enjoy it. I always like the vibe of it. And I'm not saying there's anything I know which, without knowing it, would spoil this comic book. But within like the first couple of pages, I'm straight into the vibe of it. I'm getting what they're doing. I'm feeling familiar ground, and I like that sensation. It feels like coming home to a comic book I really like, but I'm not 100% sure if without that little just extra bit of inborn knowledge, as it were, it might not read the same. I would be curious, because obviously there's something I can't talk about without actually forgetting everything I know about Doom Patrol. But what I do like about this one is multitudinous. I like the art and the writing. We have Culver and Burnham taking on the duties for this one. Two names which sadly at the moment do not jump out at me, but I recognise Burnham on the artist, and I thought I've definitely seen something they've done before, and as I was flicking through I recognised the style a little bit. It's got a really nice layer of detail to it. There is an intricacy to character design which is never wasted. Everything feels like it deserves to be there, and it adds something to it. If it's a subtle little thing about the way they're wearing their clothes, or just like a creepy monster design, everything adds to the story, and it's fantastic. And there's also huge action sequences, very much some widescreen, almost authority like levels of huge kind of fights. Love that kind of thing. Very, very much what I'm looking for in a big superhero fight. And then the writing has similar kind of vibes to it as well. We are dealing with big world events in the DC universe, but we also have some really nice character beats and some really nice interactions, particularly when Batman turns up and wants to be the hero when he's clearly just interfering with something. But the big event thing I'm talking about is the Lazarus Planet, and I've been a bit skeptical about this entire event simply because I remember Bloodlines when it was just a random thing to give a bunch of random people powers, and it's basically throwing a whole bunch of stuff at a wall and seeing what sticks. And the only really solid one that I remember from that era is Garth Ennis and John McCrea's Hitman. And yes, I'm a fan of McCrea and Ennis, but one of the reasons I am is Hitman. It absolutely changed how I looked at comics. And I'm always a bit like, well, are they going to find that one thing in that universe that's going to be useful and actually help comic books as a medium and tell interesting stories from a variety of viewpoints, or is it just going to be let's create some cool superpowers and see how they play out? Now we've still got some people coming into like Ram V, which can do fantastic work, I am absolutely sure. This one, however, looks at it from far more of a socio-political just issue of what happens when random people have no idea how to deal with it suddenly have they call it a metagene or something like that, and don't know how to control themselves, and are looked at from the rest of the world with contempt and fear. It almost feels a little bit like DC's trying to do an almost mutant-esque look at what it means to be different and othered. And the one thing the Doom Patrol does really well is be othered. They are an outsider group through and through. Not like in a street level lower than the Avengers would be kind of thing in the Marvel Universe, but just literally on the outside of things. They are unusual. They have powers which are harder to classify. They have outlooks on life which are very, very different. And this is outlook on life which actually made this one stand out to me, because somebody gets infected with this metagene and people are turning up to try and deal with the problem, including Batman, whose entire thing is just let's beat them up and put them in Arkham. And the chief of the Doom Patrol is like, no, you don't know what you're doing. Yes, you hang out with the Justice League, but that's like aliens and Amazons and high tech and magic rings. There's only really one meta-human, like specifically human who's had a metagene, and that's Flash. So Batman doesn't really have the knowledge in the background to do this kind of thing in the way that Doom Patrol have been doing when they've been encountering people with problems and powers that they struggle to control. So they're turning up and trying to change things for the better, while also pulling apart a rapacious capitalist system that's going to take advantage of these people to weaponize their metagene and profit from it. So yeah, glad that they're doing that way. And it always comes across like, should superheroes be cops? And we see this quite often with stuff like the Justice League, where they are just like putting out fires of criminality and dealing with it in like time-tested ways of putting people into the carceral system. But recently, Marvel in Doom Patrol did something where they had some people who were cops who were like, yeah, we actually want to do good. And I like that idea that these people have strange, unusual powers and abilities, and the idea of them being heroes shouldn't just be maintaining the status quo. We should be doing something that nobody else can do with these powers and abilities, and trying to make the world a better place in any way they can. And I'm all in favour of that, and it comes across really nicely and makes me think that this is only a 6-issue miniseries, but it's worth paying attention to. There's also a really bizarre side story involving giant apes and some foreshadowing for Task Force X, but those are obviously, that's stuff we're going to worry about in a later series. For now, the big thing is who the Doom Patrol are and what they do, and they look fantastic when they're doing it. That's it from me. I'll be back later on with another review. Until then, look after each other, everyone. Stay safe. Bye!